Hey guys, welcome to our first full week of class here. Um, I know it's Wednesday, but I was just watching all of your videos, your introduction videos, and I could tell everybody was like really excited, and that made me want to reach out and touch base. Um, I've been working with the senior project for a couple of years now, in its new format, and it's easy for me to get into like the long picture because it is a 1 year process or 2 semester process, of seeing students at the different points along the way and making sure they're on track and everything. But I do realize that it makes me lose track with the excitement of being at the beginning of the process. And so, even though we're in an unusual time, respective to the virus or um, other situations and having to be online, here at the beginning, I did want to reach out and make sure that that I recognize your excitement, and that means a lot to me, as a teacher. So I don't necessarily try and take credit for it, but it is really important for students to bring some excitement to that and to remind professors, you know, that this is an important part of your life, and it's an honor for me to be part of that. So I know the last presentation I gave you was a like a class overview and stuff, and so I want to make sure that everybody recognizes where we are now that we're in the first week. For the most part, I've been able to get intro videos from everybody. Like I said, that was really a blast for me to listen to meet some of you guys for the first time, or some of you students for the first time, and others I've taught in other classes before, but just to see the breadth of interest. And I want to remind you that the way this class tends to work best is for students to do a self inventory about what it is that inspires them, getting in touch with your vocation, like listening for your calling. We talked a little bit about that in the talent management class last semester for students that were in that. But that's really kind of part of the orientation phase of this class. And so it starts in an orientation phase. So you're kind of figuring out where you're coming from, how you got to where you are, and what that means moving forward. So, like I said, the best results for students, once they go through that orientation phase and kind of take stock on, what kinds of media, storytelling, types of content, types of stories, types of projects are, kind of awaken that inner passion. Then it's time to figure out if you want to be sort of a lone wolf on this thing, or whether you can do that little bit of extra work to find a team. And to this point in the process, the team approach has yielded stronger results. It's not that there's a problem that one way is better than the other, but if you're looking at it in terms of results, and that's probably the way that employers are going to be looking at it. So if this is like part of your portfolio, having the strongest result, I would think, would be the most persuasive case to, like, hey, you need to be hiring me. And so once again, that's why I created this. So going over to the Canvas page here, at the bottom of it, and this is my view, I guess I'll go to your view. I'm going to get in touch with the students, looking at the world through their eyes. Okay, see this little discussion area. So, this isn't something you need to do right away, but, in the next few weeks, you may already be aware of this, but you're either going to have a strong sense of, like, I have a strong vision of the kind of work that I need to be doing, and I'm going to have a leadership role in this project. Or you may not have that, and that's perfectly fine. It's not required. A world full of directors leaves a lot to be said for, who's turning on the lights and doing the editing and stuff. And so, that's not the world that we live in. And so if you don't like have that strong vision about, I'm not going to be happy unless I'm doing this, I can see the project that I need to be doing, you still have skill sets that are necessary to the accomplishment of a project. And so what I want you to see is that, I'm recognizing two sort of groups of students that tend to circulate in this class. Those who have a strong sort of vision, and those would be project leaders over here. So when you go over to the discussion, project leaders, they've got the vision, and they probably do have some skills as well. It may be script writing, it could be video editing, it could be post-production, who knows, audio post-production, who knows what it is. But they almost always can't do it by themselves. And so this discussion board, this first part, for project leaders, is to go in there and say, okay, this is I want to do this project, but I'm looking for people that have these other skills, right? The flip side of that same coin is that for that other group of students, it's like, okay, I know I've got some skills and some value to contribute to a project, but I don't have, that strong vision of this is the project that has to be my project. Then you go to this second area and post, I'm a specialist, I can do any number of, possible skills that you learn in class from, script writing, digital storytelling, post-production, digital design, all the stuff that we learn, live sound, audio editing, on down the line. And I'm looking to jump on board either with a project or some other collaborators, then you would post in here. And so both groups should be aware not only of, kind of that identity that we're trying to cultivate in this class, but also of who's looking for what, So if there are leaders that need a specialist and you're that specialist, then boom, you can find that here. Or you just indicate who you are down here. And if there are project leaders that are, okay, I've almost got the team complete, but I need to find someone to do, lighting or video editing or whatever, then they can go looking in the for hire section for that particular specialist. So this is a really important dimension of the class that is intended to resemble real life, right? The professional sphere is one in which you've got a community of creative people, but not all have the same sort of tool belt on, right? They're all bringing something different to a different kind of skill set to the party. And so getting a chance to figure out who's in the room, like, okay, I remember that face, but what do they actually do? That takes time and social networking, professional networking, and the rest. And so this little discussion board here is intended to fulfill that function. So I just want to remind you that is there, and there are points that are on the table when a match is made, or even when posts are made. So it's sort of an extra credit thing. And so I want to drive, some traffic there to get it to work. Okay, when we go back up to the top here, going to our class YouTube page, like that all should be pretty familiar to you by now, especially if you've uploaded your video, which everyone has. You'll remember there are some essential documents, but when we get into the the flow of the class, so we're in this first phase right now, and that's going to take us through this month, right through the end of January. So you've got these 2 writing assignments due this week, and they're intended as orientation writing assignments. And so the name of the game here is to reflect and say, yes, I'm a major now. What were the top experiences in my life as a student primarily, but maybe they were working as a street team, or working not necessarily as a student, perhaps as an intern, or in some other capacity, but an experience nonetheless that kind of lit the fire of passion, that kind of helped you take a step along the road that you find yourself on now, being a MEA major. And so classes are usually best because you can get those classes tend to have either projects, textbooks, notes, teachers, other students. Like there's a long paper trail, you could call it, of people who have that shared experience. And so that, the power of that experience can still be, isn't just a matter of your memory, right? Like going to a concert and like sitting behind the sound booth and being like, wow, that's really cool. That's a cool experience. But it's contingent primarily on your memory. So I'm not saying don't use experiences like that, but try to favor classes for these. And so that's going to help you recognize, like I said, this pathway, the steps that you've taken, what kinds, so it's an exercise in objectivity. It's like recognizing yourself from a distance in the past and saying, hey, wow, this is the kind of thing that that has impacted my life. And that's useful information, powerful information, given our particular objectives in this class are for you to make a declaration of purpose. And so seeing the kind of things that have impacted your life should inform the way that you state your creative identity as an emerging creative professional relative to a specific kind of project. So this is your opportunity. But we're taking this whole semester to make sure that the proposal is the right one for you and that it's meaningful for you. And then, so that's kind of the retrospective orientation. Then the next assignment, exemplar. So an exemplar, the way I'm using that, right, it's a person who makes an example, but it is someone who who you wish that you could emulate. So if you could say, I want your job and be, Steven Spielberg, or be, Bruce Swedien, famous audio producer, or on down the line, who would those people be? And then this writing assignment gives you a chance to dig a little bit and find out what were the formative experiences for them. Look at their wiki page or some of their bio information and figure out what steps did they take to get where they got, if it was such a great pathway to take. And you'll find that a lot of the there's not one way to do it, right? That's part of the cool thing about our industry, is that there's a lot of ways to get to the finish line, but you have to know your direction and your orientation. And so that's why these orientation assignments are really important. And then the third thing that we'll have due out of this first phase of the class is for you to go through that. And hopefully this is another reason why choosing classes about, in this first assignment are so important, is because many of the teachers who, especially for university classes at this university, are still in place. And so this helps you identify that sort of project sponsor and faculty mentor that you will need to help you through some of the depth of specialty that's represented in this class. My role as a teacher of this class is more broad, so I don't have equal amount of depth of specialty in audio as video as music business management, for sure. And so I am making sure that you guys can make it through the course, but part of that is having access to depth of specialty that's not from class notes or a textbook. And so that's why having a faculty advisor is so important. So they're waiting for you to reach out to them to kind of informally interview them, talk about some ideas you may have, what experiences were important to you. And from that conversation, you'll have an idea if this is someone who you should have a pretty good gut feeling or intuitive feeling after talking with this faculty about these questions, whether or not they're the right one that can kind of help guide you to this awakening of your vocation. That's one way I like to see it. So that we are sort of on a spiritual endeavor here in terms of giving way to part of what's inside of you in terms of your vision and your creative identity that maybe hasn't manifested itself yet. And so that's kind of, once again, getting back to why it's an honor for me to be with you all at this particular point. And so that's kind of this first, that represents basically the month of January and right at the beginning of February. Once we get to that point, I'll send out emails and ask you all to sign up for meetings, and then we'll have face-to-face meetings on an individual basis, so that I can get a sense of where you are, and have a useful conversation. Hopefully that'll push you along, ask you some questions, try to steer you towards some resources that I may be aware of. And then speaking of resources, that's the main chunk of this class. So this is a small section here, these orientation assignments. And this is a small section at the end when you get to the point of, putting the proposal together and presenting that. But the majority of the class is going to be, I call those declaration assignments. So you're declaring the proposal, you're declaring your intent, you're declaring what's important to you. But in the middle that's all investigation. And so the majority of this class is going to be, you having a sense of, where you are and how you got to and what you're interested in, in a specific way. And then doing some digging in your area about, what is who are the main players in my field in terms of who's employing, the skill sets that they're looking for, what's the state of the industry, what kind of trends can we see? So there's like this business analytic part. And then I'll take you through some personality assessment inventory that will be available, but really looking specifically at articles or works of art, so other films or audio recordings, bios of producers or others that are important that you may want to emulate, academic articles, book chapters. That's all of these 5 presentations are going to be you digging into your area so that you can become achieve a certain level of mastery over understanding the meaning of what you do, other than, hey, it's cool and I like it, or I want to be like this other person, or I want to do cool art. What is it that makes it cool? So you need to be able to articulate that and in terms that are specific to our industry. And being that we're in an academic setting, part of that will be the ability to articulate it in academic terms, but also artistic terms, industry specific terms. And so this class is like a crucible and a focal point. So you're bringing all of these different resources that are around and focusing specifically on your awakening to your vocation, your ability to assemble a plan to realize your a piece of, or the first big sort of step on your pathway, and bringing that together. So I wanted to make sure that I responded to your excitement, to show you that I recognize that and that I share that with you, and that I'm here to help realize that in a way that will make best position you to succeed in the kind of open employment marketplace. Times are difficult, and so you need to take this seriously to stand out from others. There's a lot of people who are interested in getting into the music business, but not everybody will have your kick-ass senior project. All right, let me know if you need me. I'm here. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.